Hey there, welcome back to That 70s Card Show. I'm your host, John Keating, and I thank you for joining me as I take a look back at the cards and the culture of the very colorful 1970s. We'll revisit a more simple time in our hobby by taking a deep dive into the sets and the stats with a generous amount of dad facts sprinkled in. That 70s Card Show is currently sponsored by nobody. If you have a comment or suggestion, I urge you to drop me a line at ThatSeventiesCardShow at gmail.com. That 70s Card Show on YouTube or at 70s Card on Twitter. This is episode 54. We're going to take another look back at the wonderful, wonderful baseball palaces of the 70s and beyond, and kind of a hybrid edition here because we're going to go over Milwaukee County Stadium in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I'll tell a small little story about my trip to County Stadium towards the end of this episode, if you're still there. I want to thank you guys for sticking with me and gals. A little bit of behind here. I've been doing a lot of traveling, and I guess one of the good things about not having a sponsor is I don't have to answer to anybody in that regards to when my next show is coming out. So I'd love to have a sponsorship and, grading company, shows, whatever. I appreciate a lot of products out there, and I love to give them a shout out. And I usually do in my own little way without any strings attached. But currently I am a free agent, and it's probably best that way. I'm coming to you live from room 305 of the Hilton Garden Inn in Eugene, Oregon, here in nearly mid-June of 2022. Room 305, you can, if you guys are in the lobby, you can put a drink on my tab there, Keating, room 305. Have a Zima on me. I'll probably be long gone by the time you listen to this anyway. So, Eugene, Oregon. Last time I was here was in August of 2014. My oldest son, who has since graduated and moved out, was looking at colleges. And University of Oregon was kind of a long shot considering how far away it is from Philadelphia. But my son worked for Nike at the time, and we came out to the employee store. We went to the Nike campus. We went to probably 10 Nike stores where he got a heavy discount being an employee. And this was all part of a birthday present as well. And to top it all off, we went to Autzen Stadium at University of Oregon to see the first game of the 2014 season. Of course, that was the year Marcus Mariota won the Heisman Trophy, so we got to see him. Got to see the Ducks, wonderful facility. I had a great time. I think my son had as good a time as you can have with your father at that age. He was 17. I think he just turned 17 at that point, entering his senior year. So good times, good times. I went to a couple card shops today, had a ball there. I made out like a bandit on some things, and I probably so much so that I was thinking about maybe I should move to Eugene, Oregon, where collecting is a lot cheaper. So good people out here, good prices, all that fun stuff. Let's see here. We're going to move on to our topic at hand, right? We're going to talk about Milwaukee County Stadium in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Some of this material provided by Wikipedia, a lot of it is almost verbatim from Wikipedia, and ballparksofbaseball.com. So away we go. If you don't mind, I'm going to be doing some reading here. So bear with me as I read, and we will all learn some things together here, and perhaps I'll try to put a personal touch on it as well. So Milwaukee County Stadium was originally built as a home for the Milwaukee Brewers of the Minor League American Association, replacing the outdated and deteriorating Borchert Field. Borchert Field, if you want to Google that stuff, looks like a mini version almost of the layout of the Polo Grounds. Not necessarily the oval, but the way center field just went on for days. Borchert Field, Google that stuff. Both locations would be influenced by the future Milwaukee County freeway system, as Borchert Field's footprint would be cleared to make way for Interstate 43, with County Stadium located southwest of the interchange with the Stadium Freeway and Interstate 94. Scintillating so far, I know. County Stadium was the first ballpark in the United States financed with public funds. Construction began in October 1950 and, hampered by steel shortages during the Korean War, was completed in 1953. Construction cost was $5.9 million, with the bonds finally paid off in 1964. That's not bad, 11 years after it opened. And $5.9 million apparently is $59.8 million in 2021 dollars. The city of Milwaukee also hoped to use the new facility to attract a Major League Baseball franchise. So remember, this place was built for the minor league Milwaukee Brewers. They were hoping to lure a big fish, as the city had been considered a potential relocation target for years. And in this respect, their efforts were immediately successful. In fact, the minor league Brewers would never get a chance to play at the new stadium. So even before it was completed, the Milwaukee County Municipal Stadium drew the interest of major league clubs. The St. Louis Browns, who had played in Milwaukee in 1901, bet you didn't know that, the inaugural season of the American League, applied for permission to relocate back to the city that they had left a half-century before. The Boston Braves, the parent club of the Brewers, blocked the proposed move. The Braves had long been struggling at the gate in Boston, and rumors of them relocating had been floating for some time. The move to keep Milwaukee available as a new home indicated to many observers that the Braves would move to Milwaukee themselves. 3 weeks before the beginning of the 1953 season, and right before the new stadium was ready to open, the Braves made it official, applying for permission to relocate. This is 3 weeks before the start of a baseball season. They've decided they wanted to relocate. Think about the mayhem that would cause in the modern age. The other National League owners agreed, with the team becoming the Milwaukee Braves. The Braves' first regular season home game was April 14, 1953, against the St. Louis Cardinals. Bill Bruton hit a 10th-inning home run to win the game 3-2 in dramatic style. So let's look at something real quick here. Many of us, I'm a big fan. Probably my favorite set of all time is the 53 Topps set, okay? And you look back at that set, it's populated with Braves players either wearing a B or an M on their cap. And, of course, these are, I should have said M or a B. I apologize for the potty humor. And these were obviously painted cards, so it wasn't that big of a deal to put whatever letter you're on there. But within this set, as many know, there's Milwaukee Braves and there's Boston Braves in there, which is pretty cool. I thought, again, modern day age, how screwed up would that be? But this is what we, this was part of the beauty of cards back then. Love the Milwaukee Braves and the Boston Braves in the same set. I digressed. So on April 14th, County Stadium had a capacity of 28,111 that consisted of a double-decked grandstand on the first and third base lines. A lower level of seating that extended to the foul poles and bleachers were in the outfield. The upper grandstand consisted of wooden bleachers. A state-of-the-art Miller High scoreboard was located in right field with a Longines clock on top. In their first season in Milwaukee, the Braves set the National League attendance record of 1.8 million human beings. With soaring attendance at County Stadium, the grandstands that were single-decked down the foul lines were double-decked by the 1954 season, increasing capacities to 43,430. Trees were planted in the batter's backdrop in center field, and a picnic area known as Braves Reservation was added between the outfield bleachers. If you look at some pictures here of when the stadium opened, you can see that essentially the upper deck grandstand ended right in the back of the infield cutout. So they would, over the course of the 53-54 off season, as I stated so eloquently, extend that grandstand all the way down to the foul poles on each side. So the stadium looked pretty barren almost in the beginning, and still pretty classy for what was intended to be a minor league field. But they had to expand almost immediately due to demand, and eventually, like I said, the whole pole to pole, foul pole to foul pole wraparound would be double deck, and she was a real beaut, Clark, if you ask me. I like the old stadiums like that. So, famously, the first published issue of Sports Illustrated on August 16, 1954, featured County Stadium with Braves batter Eddie Matthews on its cover, along with New York Giants catcher Wes Westrom and home plate umpire Augie Donatelli. On July 12, 1955, County Stadium hosted the 22nd All-Star Game. The National League won 6-5 on a 12th inning home run by Stan Musial. The Braves hosted back-to-back World Series in 1957 and 1958, both against the New York Yankees. The Braves defeated the Yankees in 7 games in 1957, but the Yankees returned the favor the next year. The stadium continued to be the National League's top draw until 1959, when the Dodgers, who had moved to Los Angeles 2 years earlier, overtook the Braves, both in the stands and on the field. In the early 1960s, attendance fell, along with the Braves' standings. The attendance at County Stadium began to drop, and when new owner William Bartholomew purchased the club in 1962, he began looking to move the team. On March 5, 1964, the Braves announced they would move to Atlanta after the 1965 season. That's a lot more warning than the fans of Boston got, that is for sure. The Milwaukee Braves played their last game at County Stadium on September 12, 1965, moving to Atlanta Stadium the following season. We talked about Atlanta Stadium in our first Baseball Palaces episode way back yonder. Without baseball, the Packers were the only main tenant, and they only played half of their games at County Stadium. We'll talk a little bit about that. You may or may not know about the Packers' history at the County Stadium. Talk a little bit more baseball here, stuff that you may or may not have known, because I know I did not. Chicago White Sox, 1968, 1969. I hope you're listening, Zach Byrne. In an effort to return Major League Baseball to Milwaukee after the departure of the Braves, local businessman and minority Braves owner Bud Selig, I can't even say the guy's name. I don't want to say his name. Brought other teams to play at County Stadium, beginning with the 1967 exhibition game between the Chicago White Sox and the Minnesota Twins. The exhibition game attracted more than 51,000 spectators, so Selig's group contracted with owner Arthur Allen to host 9 Chicago White Sox home games at County Stadium in 1968. Selig's experiment was highly successful. Those 9 games drew 264,297 fans. In Chicago that season, the Sox drew 539,470 fans in the remaining 72 games. In just a handful of games, the Milwaukee crowds accounted for nearly 1/3 of total attendance at White Sox games. In light of this success, Selig and Allen agreed that County Stadium would host Sox home games again the next season. In 1969, the Sox schedule in Milwaukee was expanded to include 11 home games, one against every other franchise in the American League at the time. Although these games were attended by slightly fewer fans, 198,211 for an average of 18,019, they represented a greater percentage of total White Sox attendance than the previous year. This was over 1/3 of the fans who went to Sox games in 1969 did so at County Stadium. In the remaining 70 home dates in Chicago, the Sox drew 391,000 for an average of 5,591 per game. Despite the attendance success of the White Sox games, Selig was unable to attract an expansion team in the 1969 expansion. However, one of the teams founded in that expansion would later work in Selig's favor. Not discouraged by the setback, Selig instead bought the troubled Seattle Pilots out of bankruptcy court. The Pilots had been a 1969 expansion team. The Seattle franchise had serious stadium and financial issues. In the spring of 1970, Milwaukee had baseball again, and County Stadium had a new tenant. The Milwaukee Brewers, named for the American Association Club, for which County Stadium was originally built over 20 years earlier, called it home from 1970 to 2000. The sale occurred during spring training for 1970 and happened so fast that Sea League could not get new uniforms made. Instead, they ripped the Pilots' insignia off the pre-existing uniforms, and the Brewers adopted the Pilots' blue, white, and yellow instead of red and navy blue, the Braves colors that Sea League had originally wanted. These remain the team colors to this day. Before the Kansas City Royals were to play a game on June 12, 1977 against the Milwaukee Brewers at Milwaukee County Stadium, thieves stole gloves and uniforms belonging to Royals players. Due to this, all but 7 Royals players had to wear Milwaukee road uniforms for the game that day. I've brought up on my screen a picture of first baseman. I think that's George Scott. Maybe that's not George Scott. Maybe it's Cecil Cooper. Anyway, first baseman for the Brewers in the home whites and a base runner for the Royals in powder blue. That's pretty cool. I like that. I like those stories. I don't condone theft, but maybe just hiding uniforms every now and then would kind of spice up baseball a little bit. By the 1990s, County Stadium was considered outdated, lacking the amenities, most notably luxury boxes, that generated additional revenue for teams. On July 11, 1992, Sea League announced plans for a publicly financed replacement to be built adjacent to County Stadium. Opening in time for the 1994 season, the stadium was the only one in the Major League. Opening in time for the 1994 season. Of course, that didn't happen. But at the time, the stadium was the only one in Major League Baseball that lacked some sort of color video board. It used a monochrome Omega scoreboard built in 1980. So obviously, these people needed to move on from the black and white technology. The Brewers opened the 1999 season intending to bid farewell to their old park. On July 14th, 3 construction workers at Miller Park site were killed in the collapse of the Giants' Big Blue Crane while attempting to install a 400-ton roof panel. A good part of the construction site was also damaged as a result. Cleanup and an investigation delayed the closing of County Stadium to the end of the 2000 season. There was some talk of having the Brewers move into Miller Park in the middle of the 2000 season, but it was determined that too many corners would have to be cut in order for it to be ready by that time. So that video is on YouTube to watch of the crane collapse. It's so sad that 3 people lost their lives, but it's also sad that the park got wrecked up as well in that crane collapse. So a shame, obviously, for the loss of human life. Let's talk a little bit about, of course, the Brewers now play at whatever it's called park, but Miller Park, and they play in the National League too. So most of what we've known about the Brewers from the 70s is no longer relevant. Here's some fun stuff to talk about. It's football. Green Bay Packers, right? They were National Football League's Green Bay Packers played 2 to 4 games per year at Milwaukee County Stadium from 1953 to 1994. The Packers completed a 76-47-3 regular season record at County Stadium over 42 seasons. That is a .615 winning percentage, y'all. It hosted at least one preseason game annually during this time, except for 1983, for some reason. I'm not sure what was going on in 83. Financial considerations prompted the Packers to move some of their games to Milwaukee starting in the 1933 season, with one game played at Borchert Field. By 1995, multiple renovations to Lambeau Field made it more lucrative for the Packers to play their full home slate in Green Bay, again for the first time since 1932. Former Milwaukee ticket holders were offered tickets at Lambeau to one preseason game and games 3 and 6 of the regular season schedule, later changed to games 2 and 5, in what is referred to as the Gold Package. County Stadium is partially responsible for Lambeau Field's existence. When it was originally built, it was not only intended to lure an MLB team to Milwaukee, but also to lure the Packers to Milwaukee full-time. As originally constructed, County Stadium was double the size of the Packers' then home City Stadium. By the 1950s, the Packers were under growing pressure to find a replacement for City Stadium. It could not be expanded, and its amenities for fans and players had long since fallen below NFL standards. With a growing number of teams letting it be known that they would not play at City Stadium, the NFL told the Packers to build a bigger stadium or move to Milwaukee full-time. Green Bay responded with a referendum that resulted in a new City Stadium, which opened in September 1957. After 8 seasons, the venue was renamed Lambeau Field shortly after the death of team founder Curly Lambeau in 1965. The Minnesota Vikings, 15 times, were the Packers' most frequent foe at County Stadium, as the Packers would traditionally host at least one divisional rival from the NFC Central in Milwaukee each season. Only once, however, did the Packers play their ancient arch rivals, the Chicago Bears, in a regular season game in Milwaukee, defeating the Bears 20-3 in 1974. The Packers and Bears played preseason games at County Stadium every year from 1959 to 1973, and again 1975 to 1984. Kind of odd they don't do that anymore. They don't play typically don't play interdivisional matches during the preseason. On November 26, 1989, a County Stadium record crowd of 55,892 saw the Packers beat the Vikings 20-19. The Packers' final game at County Stadium was a 21-17 victory over the Atlanta Falcons on December 18, 1994. With 14 seconds left, the winning 9-yard touchdown run was scored by quarterback Brett Favre, who was drafted by the Falcons in 1991 but traded the next year due to then Atlanta coach Jerry Glanville's intense dislike of Favre. The Packers hosted one NFL playoff game at County Stadium in 1967, defeating the Los Angeles Rams 28-7 in the Western Conference Championship game, avenging a 27-24 loss 2 weeks earlier at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum. It was the first year that the NFL players expanded to 4 teams, and Green Bay had home field advantage for both rounds, then awarded by rotation. Each subsequent playoff game has been played at Lambeau Field, starting with the Ice Bowl the following week against the Dallas Cowboys. Unlike most publicly funded stadiums built in the 20th century, County Stadium was built primarily for baseball, which contradicts what we just heard about trying to lure the Packers, but you get the gist. Creating issues for hosting football. Okay. The playing surface was just barely large enough to fit a football field, which ran parallel with the first base line. The south end zone spilled into the warning track in right field, while the north end zone spilled into foul territory on third base side. Both teams shared the east sideline on the outfield side, separated by a piece of tape. At its height, it seated less than 56,000 for football, just over the NFL's post-AFL merger minimum seating capacity, and many seats had obstructed views or were far from the field. Over the years, upgrades and seat expansions almost exclusively benefited the Braves and later the Brewers. Season ticket prices for the first football season in 1953 were $5, $3.80, and $2.50. That was for 3 games. You got that $5 tops, $2.50 bottom for 3 games. The average price in the final year of 1994 was $25.61 per game. So I got the pleasure of watching a football game there in 1992 when I was on tour with a gentleman named Neil Young. We played Riverside Theater in Milwaukee on a theater tour. It was just Neil and his guitars and stuff like that. So I got to see, my boss called me up, my production manager, and said, hey, I noticed the Eagles are playing in Milwaukee, and you want tickets. So I got tickets, and they were probably right behind the third base dugout, so in one of the end zones. I guess that would be north. I remember how awesome the tailgate was out front. I didn't partake, but on the way in, it was amazing the spirit of the fans there in Milwaukee for the Packers. And it was the other thing that took me by surprise when I got inside was A, everybody seemed to be wearing hunting orange except for me, and B was the both teams on the same side of the field, which was pretty. First time I'd ever seen that, standing in the outfield, both teams, pretty much from goal line to goal line. I had always assumed that it was the reason for that was for since the boxes where the coaches, the coordinators would be, were only down the first base line, or what would be only on one side. Maybe that's why they made both teams stand on the outfield, or maybe it was because the seats were so low down front that they didn't want more obstructions of football players standing in front of the crowd. So one of those two reasons may be the ultimate reason for both teams sharing a sideline. That game was also notable because I couldn't wait to see what was going on with Dan Mikowski, who had kind of been hyped up the previous year. Turns out he was injured, and Brett Favre, a guy named Brett Favre, started that game. I had not heard of him at all. Rich Kotite coached the Eagles. Mike Holmgren was coaching the Packers. 1 o'clock start time. 52,689 people were in attendance. The Eagles would lose 27-24 it was a brutal loss. Field goal late in the game by Chris Jackie. Actually, two of them by Chris Jackie towards the end of the game. Roger Ruzak was the kicker for the Eagles. Sterling Sharp caught a touchdown pass from Brett Favre. Let's see here. Heath Sherman had a 17-yard rush for the Eagles. Heath Sherman caught a 75-yard pass. It was really a dump-off in the backfield that he took from Randall Cunningham, and Herschel Walker had a 2-yard touchdown run himself. The over-under was 35, and they exceeded that. And the Eagles were giving 8.5 points, I believe, and so they screwed that up. So Randall Cunningham, 14 for 23, 169 yards passing, 1 touchdown. He was sacked 3 times. He ran twice for 31 yards, 18-yarder being his longest. Herschel Walker ran for 47 yards, and so on and so on. Brett Favre was 23 for 33, 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 2 sacks, and -1 rushing yards for Brett Favre. Receiving Jackie Harris, 8 catches for 98 yards. Sterling Sharp, 7 for 116. Good times. Anyway, I'm boring everybody, but it was fun for me. Had a ball, and I behaved so well at that game that the very next week we were playing in Minnesota, and I was able to see the Browns play the Minnesota Vikings indoor in the most sterile environment, the Hubert H. Humphrey Dome, that I had ever been in my life. It was like, it was just quiet. It was like watching a game in a library. Let's talk about, don't forget about Bernie the Brewer out there in center field there. We'll talk maybe about him in a little bit. Here's a nice little shot here of the setup over at County Stadium, where, again, running parallel to the first base line, both teams in the outfield. Looks like left field, some playing shallow in left field, some playing deep in center. Again, I enjoyed it, but I like the old ballparks. Other uses for this venue, County Stadium, was also popular home for concerts throughout its history. Bob Hope, in fact, performed for fans during a Brave doubleheader in 1960. County Stadium also hosted the Cool Jazz Festival every year from 1976 to 1980. Let's talk about some of the concerts. The Stones played there in 1975, their Tour of Americas. And on that band was also the band Eagles, the Gap Band, and Rufus. So no The Band, just the Eagles and Rufus and the Gap Band. So June 22nd, 1975, and June 15th, 1977, the greatest band in the world, Pink Floyd, played on its Wish You Were Here tour, and in 1977 in the In the Flesh tour. September 11th, 1977, Fleetwood Mac and Jimmy Buffett played there on the Rumors tour, also the Changes in Attitudes tour. June 30th, 1978, Ted Nugent played there with Heart, Journey, Cheap Trick, and the Steve Miller Band. August 2nd, 1978, the Eagles played there with Pablo Cruz and Jefferson Starship. That was the Hotel California tour. September 1981, listen, the World Series of Rock was there. So if you weren't there, then I don't know where you were. But REO Speedwagon, April Wine, Blackfoot, the Michael Stanley Band, and Foreigner played. Now, not to be outdone, next year it was the World Series of Rock 2 featuring 38 Special, Triumph, Loverboy, and Quarter Flash. You're going to harden my heart. September 30th, 1987, Pink Floyd on the Momentary Lapse of Reason tour played there. 58,044 fans, which was about 1,000 fans less than the In the Flesh tour in 77, but they did gross $1.160880 million. June 2nd, 1993, Paul McCartney, the New World Tour, 47,000 capacity, sold it out. Dueling Pianos, August 11, 1994, Elton John and Billy the Joel, face-to-face tour, 55,526 piano-loving crazies packed the ballpark. Jehovah's Witnesses held their annual convention there, including well-known annual themes such as Good News for All Nations and Peace on Earth in the stadium during 1960s and 1970s, drawing as many as 57,000 people at one time. They later opted to utilize an assembly hall, which is constructed for the same purpose as the stadium. I have no idea what that means. I should have read that. Coach. Portions of the last 3 seasons of the American television series Coach were filmed at County Stadium. The series starred Craig T. Nelson as Hayden Fox, coach of the Orlando Breakers, a fictional NFL expansion team, from whose office window County Stadium can be recognized. Milwaukee County Stadium was the Major League. The movie The Major League was shot at County Stadium during the summer of 1988. Even though the movie was about the Cleveland Indians, producers cast Milwaukee Brewers announcer Bob Uecker in the movie with signage for local channels WTMJ, WCGV, not covered up and visible in the film. Announcements were made on local television programs about the number of extras required for a day's shooting, and capacity crowds turned out for the shooting of the final scenes, which involved the Indians in the final game of a pennant race. Also in the film, fans in the stands were visible donning T-shirts bearing the logo and name of local Milwaukee area corporation Quad Graphics. Quad Graphics printed such magazines as People, Sports Illustrated, The Playboy, and probably Reader's Digest as well. July 28th, 1990, United States men's national soccer team, which has always been overrated, hosted an international friendly versus East Germany, losing 2-1. June 10th, 1989, an exhibition game between, I believe it's a match, between English teams Wigan Warriors and Warrington Wolves at County Stadium. Wigan won 12-5 in front of a crowd of 17,773 enthusiastic rugby fans. Professional wrestling here, the World Wrestling Federation, now World Wrestling Entertainment, held WrestleFest in 1988. WrestleFest sounded like kind of like my CCD school. At County Stadium on July 31st, 1988. The event was headlined by Hulk Hogan defeating Andre the Giant in a steel cage match. And guess what? Due to the large seating capacity, in July 1953, the new stadium hosted the Ice Capades for 9 consecutive nights. How does that happen in July in Wisconsin? An ice rink. Somebody figure that out for me. Do the math. So, talking again about our boy here, Bernie the Brewer, right? There was a chalet and giant beer mug originally at right center field and later at left, where mascot Bernie Brewer would dunk himself whenever a Brewers player hit a home run. The chalet is now stored at Lakefront Brewery, a Milwaukee microbrewery, and can be seen on brewery tours. County Stadium also gave rise to the sausage race, during which several, anthropomorphized sausages participate in an initially fictional race to home plate between the 6th and 7th innings. Whoever finished first was the wiener, and whoever finished last was the worst. Brats with secret stadium sauce, invented and served at County Stadium, were the favorite ballpark food of Bob Costas. Apparently, people dig their secret sauce over there at the stadium, and it was invented by one of the concession workers, who I think is now like the president of the concessionaire there in Milwaukee. Ran out of condiments, so kind of mixed a lot of them together, and now those people in Milwaukee love their secret sauce. Apparently, secret stadium sauce. County Stadium has hosted 2 baseball All-Star games. We talked about the one in 1955. National League Braves played host and won 6, 5, and 12 innings. And in 1975, when the American League Brewers played host and lost 6-3. It also hosted the World Series again in 57, 58, and 82. That was against it was the Brew Series, right? It was against the St. Louis Cardinals, as well as the league playoffs in 1981. And a Green Bay Packers playoff game, as mentioned, in 1967. On May 26, 1959, Harvey Haddix of the Pittsburgh Pirates set a record when he pitched 12 perfect innings, only to lose 1-0 to the Braves in the 13th inning. On April 30th, 1961, Willie Mays hit 4 home runs and collected 8 RBIs as the San Francisco Giants defeated the Braves 14-8. On May 1st, 1975, Hank Aaron broke Babe Ruth's RBI record of 2,211 by driving in his 2,212th run at County Stadium as the Brewers beat the Detroit Tigers 17-3. On September 17, 1976, County Stadium hosted a salute to Hank Aaron in which Aaron was honored. On October 3, 1976, in the final game of his career, Aaron singled in his final at-bat for hit number 3,771. The hit drove in a run and set a Major League career RBI record of 2,297. That still stands today, folks. In his final game, Aaron also set the Major League records for that time with career games at 3,298 and career at-bats at 12,364. The Brewers did lose to the Detroit Tigers that day, 5-2. On October 10, 1982, the Brewers defeated the California Angels to win their first and only American League championship in franchise history. The Brewers defeated the Angels 4-3 to win the ALCS 3-2. On July 31st, 1990, Nolan Ryan won his 300th Major League game at County Stadium when the Texas Rangers defeated the Brewers 11-3. On September 14th, 1991, Cecil Fielder of the Detroit Tigers hit the only home run to sail over the outfield bleachers and completely out of County Stadium. The blast came off Brewers pitcher Dan Plesac. The Tigers beat the Brewers 6-4. On September 9th, 1992, Robin Yount recorded his 3,000th hit in Major League Baseball game at County Stadium. Final game at County Stadium took place on September 28th, 2000. In front of a capacity of 56,354, the Brewers closed out their tenure at Milwaukee County Stadium with an 8-1 loss to the Cincinnati Reds. I'm getting a little choked up here. Sean Casey of the Reds scored the last run at County Stadium with a single by Juan Castro, and the final hit was a single by Reds' Michael Tucker. In the closing ceremony led by legendary announcer Bob Uecker, Braves greats, Brewers greats, and Green Bay Packers so-sos were introduced. Familiar faces such as Warren Spahn, Hank Aaron, Frank Torrey, Bob Buell represented the Braves, Willie Wood and Fuzzy Thurston were some of the notable Packers. Brewers greats that came back to salute the fans and the stadium included Paul Molitor, Jim Gantner, Raleigh Fingers, Robin Yount, and following the introductions, Uecker read a short requiem for the old park as the lights were turned off standard by standard. He closed with a version of his trademark broadcast sign-off. So long, old friend, and good night, everybody. So, talk a little bit about the deets of the stadium, if that's okay with everybody out there. We got a few minutes, right? I think so. Capacity-wise, again, 28,111 when it opened up and expanded the following year. It was increased, it says, to 43,394. It would max out at 54,187. That was between 1979 and 1980, and then dropped down slightly by 1,000 the following year through the rest of its existence. It was on 201 South 46th Street in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Don't send a letter there because the only thing left at that place is a Little League field, which is next to the new Enormo Dome that the National League Brewers play in this day. Backstop was 60 feet from home plate. also known as 18 meters over yonder. Natural grass surface throughout. On left side, left line, 315 feet down the left line. Left center was 362. Deep left center was 392. Center field 402. Same dimensions around the right side of the field as well. April 6, 1953, 69 years ago it opened. September 28th, 2000, it was closed. It was demolished by February 21st. 2001, it was home again, of course, to the Milwaukee Braves of the National League from 1953 to 1965. The Green Bay Packers of the NFL, 1953 to 1994, part-time, it says. The Marquette Golden Avalanche football team, 57 to 58. The Chicago White Sox part-timers, 58 through 69. The Milwaukee Panthers of the NCAA, 68 to 71, and of course the Brewers from 72. The year 2000. One other cool thing is the flag of Milwaukee shows still to this day, I believe, has a little picture of the standards in the bottom left there of County Stadium. You see lighting standards and the grandstand. Also has an homage in the upper left part of the seal of the flag, or whatever you want to call that. A little Braves figure there to harken back to its old days there. I don't know whether that still exists, but yeah, that's Milwaukee. So that's County Stadium over there in Milwaukee. Had the pleasure, like I said, of attending a sporting event there, and it was kind of a unique one. I wish I would have seen the baseball game, but I got to go to a nice cold football game and witness an Eagles upset at the hands of the Green Bay Packers. So thank you for joining me this week in my journey back in time. If you have a comment or suggestion, perhaps you have a set from the 1970s you'd like to hear more about, or you're interested in sponsoring that 70s Card Show. I'm talking to you, Shure Microphones SM58S. If you want to sponsor me, send me some microphones. Reach out to me at ThatSeventiesCardShow at gmail.com. We're here in the comments section, That 70s Card Show on YouTube, and on Twitter at 70s Card. Beautiful time here in Eugene. Headed home tonight. Cannot wait. Please enjoy the music by Mango Safari on your way out the door. Enjoy your collecting, and more importantly, enjoy your collection, folks. Thank you. Have a great day, ladies and gentlemen, and please be safe till we see each other again. Thanks.